Managing finances for a single person is hard enough, so you can imagine how managing finances for a household is an even bigger feat. While I'm currently a household of two, my boyfriend and I, as our pups have no financial skin in the game, I'm very excited to chat with fellow CSUN alumni, Sahirenys Pierce of Poised, who manages a household of four. We're talking all things motherhood, money, and managing it all with poise. Sirenese lives in San Diego with her husband and her two kids. She graduated from CSUN with a Bachelor's of Science degree in finance, like myself. We have a lot in common. Prior to starting Poise, she worked at a few financial management firms, including Merrill Lynch, MetLife, and Ameriprise. Sirenese started the Poise blog to help millennial women, like herself, balance their finances and lifestyle with poise. She's the creator of the high five banking method, and her social media is filled with incredibly helpful videos on managing money, meal plans, and more. Sirenese, hello, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I feel like we have so much in common, and I'm just really excited for this conversation. But I think before we kind of get into money and motherhood and all the things, can you start by sharing just a little bit more about your background and how you got to where you are today with your content?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. I'm a big fan. I've been keeping up with all your content and it's all amazing. It's really good to see other CSUN alumni doing our finance thing out here and helping our community. Like you said, I went to school at CSUN. I have a degree in finance. What a lot of people don't know about me is that my parents are immigrants from Dominican Republic. And just like all immigrants, they came here for a better life and chasing their slice of the pie of the American dream. What I realized when I was growing up with my parents was they worked extremely hard to position me to go to school, to have an opportunity to go to college, and just doing the best that they could to give us all opportunities that this country had available for us. But what I realized was, you could work extremely hard, and it's not about what you can get, it's about what you can maintain. And what I saw my parents going through during the '08 recession is they everything. My dad was in real estate. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And my dad, had the tough conversation with us about money. They always say you're supposed to be learning about money at home. I was learning about money while I was losing my home.
Wow.
And my parents told me, my sister, don't ask us about vacations, clothes, cars, quinceañeras, none of that. We're not having any more, luxury spending or even just, necessity spending at a certain point. And it was really difficult for us because, we had the experience of the sheriff coming to our home, kicking us out in front of our entire community,
Ugh.
having to rely on our neighbors to, house us that time until we, found another place to live. My parents eventually they lost both of their cars, and my parents ended up divorcing out of all of this. And what a lot of people don't realize how much that actually hurts people. Not just the financial impact that it has, is the mental, the financial well-being, and everything that actually comes into contact with all of these little situations that like a recession, a job loss, mental health, or physical health. All of that really comes into play when it comes to our finances. So when I talk about with finances with my community, it comes from a place of complete understanding. I know how it feels to, be in a difficult financial place, to having your family ripped apart because of finance. So I don't always look at everything black and white, how us finance and accounting people look at things very logical. I also incorporate all the emotional part about finances. And when I went to college, I was really interested in, just getting a career that made a lot of money. We were in a very difficult financial place, my family. I wanted to help them as much as possible. But I found out I didn't really love what I was getting myself into. I got into pharmacy. I don't know if you know a lot of financial advisors that were in pharmacy. I don't know what the whole
None.
conspiracy is. It's hilarious. So many people, they go into pharmacy because it makes a lot of money. It's recession proof, but then they find out that it's just not their passion. And that was the same situation. And eventually And the moment I got into finance is so funny. I started sharing content with my community, like all of my college friends who weren't in finance, my friends back home, my family members. And I just fell in love with sharing this information. And I just continued it. Everyone's like, keep going, tell us more about budgeting and all these things. And that's pretty much how it be. I know it's really hard, if you're in the finance industry, technically give any type of financial advice. I think that's the hardest part, because they have a lot of rules and things with FINRA and brokerage firms. So, once I decided to have my children and step away for a bit from the financial service industry, that's when I officially created Poise, and I was sharing all the financial information that was kind of locked behind a door, that we can't really necessarily share. And financial literacy is just something that we can't keep to ourselves. We have to share it as much as possible. Whoever is listening, sometimes you don't know if it might change their life. So that's why I do what I do and why I have so much passion behind Poise and creating content as well.
Wow. So first off, let me just say that I didn't know that you had experience, growing up with a foreclosed home. I feel like that is probably such a traumatic thing to go through with your family. I love that your parents, let you and your sister know, like, hey, this is where we're at. This is what needs to happen, and here we are. I'm curious, you mentioned that you went into pharmacy. I actually have never met a financial advisor or someone in finance who started with pharmacy, but I'm curious, like when you were experiencing those things growing up, like did you have this kind of thought in your mind, like, okay, I like want to learn about this so I'm not in this position? I know you mentioned you wanted to help your family, but do you think that played a role in you ultimately pursuing finance?
Absolutely. I think it was like the cornerstone to it. I started learning about emergency funds and paying off debt and having, retirement, all of these different strategies. And I was like, how is it that we don't know anything about these things? We're kind
Right.
of just like eyeballing it, like, oh, I think $1,000 is good to save. I think $500 is cool. Like we just did it without really knowing how to do it strategically. What financial planning kind of does. It teaches you how to use these tools more strategically so that you can actually maximize the benefit of it and not just do it because it feels good or it sounds good. And when I started learning about all of these different systems, once again, I had to share it. And I was super motivated to get my finances in order and to help my family and my community as well. And a lot of times, here's the funny part. When I graduated, a lot of people, they knew that I worked at Merrill Lynch and they're like, oh, you worked at Ameriprise and all these fancy places. But a lot of times when I try to help them create a financial plan, they stopped right at the budget. And I
Mm.
couldn't believe it. I was like, why is everyone stopping right at the budget? It's just overwhelming. They can't see the numbers play out. And I'm like, we can't get into investing, into paying off debt, into retirement and estate planning and buying a house, all these things if we keep stopping right at the budget. So instead of, making them feel bad, or like a lot of, in finance, they can do a little bit of like scare tactics to get people, into their finances right. I
Hmm.
just wanted to lead by an example. So I decided, let me get my finances right. And once my family and community start seeing my finances grow, they're going to be like, oh, wow, what'd you do? And that's exactly what happened, when it came to paying off debt, to my student loans, to how my husband and I cash flowed our wedding, to how we managed multiple family emergencies. People in my community, that my friends and family, they're still like, I don't know how you got through all that. It seems like a lot. I was like, I got through it because I had a systems, I had strategies to protect myself because I'm not perfect. I'm not Wonder Woman. I'm just, I'm just me. So I have
Hmm.
to take care of myself as much as possible. And that's the best way I can take care of my family and also show my friends and family that, we can survive these things. We don't have to keep losing everything after a job loss, a health situation, or a recession. We don't have to fear these situations in the financial portion of it. The emotional portion, you leave it with your family. The financial portion, that's taken care of. And that's pretty much my motto when it comes to managing my finances and my content when it comes to poise, finance, and lifestyle.
I bet your parents are just so proud. I bet they
They
are.
can't believe it, but they're like, they see me, they're like, we knew you would love doing this stuff because I was always a big saver, very disciplined. It's like, that's so you. I'm like, I know, it's me.
It is, and it's paying off. That's so good. I love to hear that. I feel like sometimes, what we see growing up can either like hurt or help us, right? And you let your experiences help you get better and serve as motivation to helping those around you get better. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
So, I mentioned in the intro that you are the creator of the high five banking method, which I think is such a helpful method for people looking to just manage their money overall. Now, there may be people who are listening who aren't familiar with the method. So, can you break down what exactly the high five banking method is and how it works?
Yes. So the high five banking method is pretty much a way to organize your finances with purpose. So what a lot of people don't know is there are a lot of secret components of financial planning and budgeting when it comes to the high five banking. So I want everyone to kind of, pull back of what you think you should be doing with your finances and think of a more strategic way to organize and manage your finances because money management is one of the most difficult things to do. So the way that I manage my bank accounts and my finances is that I have multiple bank accounts. I have five specifically. The high five banking method is composed of five bank accounts, two checking accounts, and three savings accounts. So the first checking account is to be for my bills because hey, we all got them. We got to make sure they're
Yes.
paid in full and on time every single month. The next checking account is going to be for your lifestyle because a lot of times we feel like we want to spend a lot of money, but we don't know how much, and we go into credit card debt on accident. So we want to make sure we put a cap on our lifestyle so that we don't go overboard because we all have a lifestyle, but we have to know how to manage it correctly. Now, when it comes to the three savings accounts, the most important savings accounts would be for your emergency fund. You definitely want to make sure you have an emergency fund no matter what. The next one's going to be for your short-term goals and your long-term goals. Once you have all five accounts, you can give your finances a high five.
Oh, I love that. I think that is so important and I 100% agree. I mean, I think one thing that helped me when I was turning my life around through budgeting was actually separating out my bills and my other spending, right? Because it's so
Mm-hmm.
easy when everything is in the same pot to just, yeah, overspend and oh, I don't have money for bills because I spent it. So keeping it separate is such a great way to know your limits and make sure you're sticking to them. Also, like I personally don't function well with cash. So having an account that has all of my spending money in it already, I can just monitor the account. And when the account is close to zero, I have to wait till I replenish it. And it's a great way to still stay on track with my spending.
It is. I definitely recommend it. I know a lot of people are, there's some people who are living paycheck to paycheck or just beginning, graduating college, trying to learn how to manage their finances. I just wanted to share that I definitely recommend people to start on the first accounts, your bills, your lifestyle checking account, and an emergency fund. Once you get to a place in your life where you're now trying to save to buy a car or trying to, buy a home, then you can focus on the other two accounts. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed and like when it comes to budgeting and saving and all the different goals that they have. And it's just a great way to kind of compartmentalize everything and organize it in a way where you can see, okay, I want to save for a house. I know exactly where to put it. I want to save for a vacation. I know exactly where to put it. I want to, have an emergency fund just in case because this economy is a little wild. I know exactly where to put it. And it kind of helps them, have a paycheck routine and get organized while they're doing it.
Definitely. I think it's such a wonderful starting point, especially if they are just functioning with a single checking account and everything's kind of coming out of there. Having it broken up into those five different accounts can be incredibly helpful. Pulling the thread through, and I'm assuming, well, I'll just ask you, at what point do you think people should kind of transition to like multiple sinking funds and now like, investment accounts for their goals? Like, basically, what's the next level after somebody has kind of mastered the high five banking method and now they have more money that they want to allocate to different things? What would you recommend at that point?
I would recommend two things. One is being aware of lifestyle creep because I don't know, for myself, I can set as many goals as I could potentially make. You tell me, go to the mall, you have an unlimited account. Okay, I'm gonna go and buy everything. So making sure you are very aware of lifestyle creep. Now you have more money, don't more and more goals. Now that you have that, start focusing on goals that are more long-term, extreme long-term, I like to call it, like retirement and, wanting to, help your family out in the future as well. So I feel like retirement, it will definitely be the next step. Paying off debt will be before that, I would say, even the long-term goals. And the short-term goals at certain points, because a lot of us, we have our spending money, we have it under control, we have our emergency fund, we have a few small-term goals. Now it's time to save, you pay off debt, and then you can start focusing on the other goals like investing and buying a house and things that are, a lot bigger and more difficult to accomplish that are going to need time. So that's what I would recommend. Focus on your lifestyle, calm it down, kind of control it, and then
Yep.
focus on once you have all the high five banking method mastered, now you can go towards retirement and investing and building wealth at that point.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point to make because you get your routine in place and everything is working, it's functioning as it should, and eventually you get to this place where you're starting to make more money. It's so easy to spend more when you make it. So like having that kind of level set with yourself, like, okay, let's make sure I'm doing this the best way possible is a smart move.
I know it's so funny. I was watching a lot of TikTok during the pandemic, and so many women were starting to make a lot more money and get better jobs. And they were all falling into this, specifically the TikToks I was watching, falling into this routine where they were like spending a lot of money, more than they ever have ever spent, And a couple years down the road, they'll do like update videos and then they'll share, you know what, I don't want to spend that much money anymore. I want to start investing. I want to buy a home. I want to pay off my debt. And it just takes some time, I think, for everyone when you first get that big paycheck and you're like, oh my gosh, you get that itch, like, oh my God, I need to spend some money. And it's like, and then you get comfortable with those big numbers or with that number. And now you can start looking more long term and saying, I really need to take care of myself in the future because right now I'm good. I don't need to, have more stuff, buy a bigger home or get a nicer car. The stuff I have, I'm very content with. What can I do to make my life, maintain my lifestyle in the future? And again, maintaining your lifestyle and your finances is a very hard task. It's a skill set, and we have to practice it every single day that we have a paycheck in front of us and say, okay, I know what I need to do.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. Really is like a conscious effort. Even if like you're good with budgeting, you have things under control, like anything can change at the drop of a hat, right? So you really have to be conscious and mindful and aware and just know that it's a lifelong journey, but that can be exciting. Like when you get to a place where you are in control of your money and your spending and you know how to manage it and you know how to keep an eye on it, it's for me at least, I find it very exhilarating.
Life's a journey. You got to enjoy it.
Exactly, exactly. So, I had mentioned that you are a mom of two, you're married. I would love to kind of talk about how you and your husband had conversations about money early on. Like, were you guys on the same page financially? Did you guys have different upbringings when it came to money? Did he know like what your family went through? What types of conversations about money did you guys have in the beginning? And did you set goals together and how did that help foster the relationship?
It's a really good question. It's kind of funny because, or not funny, it's kind of interesting because my husband and I, when we met, it was a couple years after the '08 recession. So his family also went through difficult times. His dad lost his job, and they live in the South where, the cost of living and the lifestyle is very different than in California. But it was still the same realities. His family struggled during '08. My family struggled through '08. So we both came into the relationship being very understanding of what our families have gone through and what we each other have gone through as well. Being children who, love our parents, we don't want anything bad to happen to them, want them to be good. So we came into the conversation both very aware of the economy as well. He moved from Alabama all the way to California, and he's very frugal because he's like, it's very expensive over here. And I was like, oh, it's always been expensive here. I used to. Um, so we both opened up about our past. And then with me having a degree in finance, I was ecstatic to open up and talk to him or anybody that would listen about what I was learning, learning about debt, paying off debt or investing and all these different strategies that would share that information with him. And he was open to it because he's like, oh, I don't know about that stuff. So yeah, why not learn about investing? Why not learn about paying off debt or saving? That's awesome. So he was very open to all that conversation. I think where the conversation got a little weird is once we were officially living together and engaged, and I was in already in the financial industry. And I was told very, very purposefully that I couldn't file a bankruptcy. And that freaked me out because, coming out of the '08 recession, a lot of people who were very responsible, had really good jobs, ended up in a situation where they filed bankruptcy. So it's not like they were, willy-nilly with their money. It's just the situations that they were going through. So I had to have that conversation with my husband at that time and tell him, okay, I'm in this industry. I worked really hard for my degree. I did my Series 7. I don't want to lose all of this because a recession comes up or, an emergency comes up. I want us to both be on the same page and want to be avoiding paying, getting into any type of bankruptcy type of situations. So that means us budgeting together and opening up about our finances, us wanting to have an emergency fund. So if anything happens to you or anything happens to me, we have money that we can, pay that bill and not have to stress out about it. And lastly, paying off debt. He had some student loans, I had some student loans. We got a new car. I was planning on getting a new car in the future. So we need to talk about all of these expenses and figure out how we wanted to pay it off. And it was difficult because we were also trying to plan a wedding at the exact same time.
Oh,
So I learned a lot of hard lessons at that time because I overwhelmed myself and kind of luckily we didn't get burnt out, but we did overwhelm ourselves a lot because we were studying a lot, we were working a lot, and trying to push as much money as possible to paying off our debts so that we can enter our marriage with a clean slate. And for us, that has been a very big blessing for us because, since we got married, we didn't have any more student loans. We did have car loans, but we were able to pay it off in a way that made sense for us and start our family and start our businesses as well. So it was a journey for us, but it worked out. I'm open to sharing all of my knowledge that I have, and I'm happy that he was open. I always joke with him, like, poor you, Freddie, you're debt free, got some emergency funds, so hard. And he's like, "Ah, well, some people want to go on vacation and relax." I'm like, you went on vacation still and you paid off debt. So you got the best of both worlds.
yes. Okay, I love that. And I think the biggest thing I took away from you sharing that story was that you guys were on the same page. Like there wasn't an
Yes.
instance where like he just wanted to just call it quits and go on vacation and just spend all this money. Like you guys had a very specific goal and you worked towards it together. So almost like not, I don't want to say suffering because that's not the right phrase. It's you're choosing to sacrifice so that you can reach the end result, and you guys did it together, and that's, I think that's an important part of being in a partnership.
Yeah, I think it's really important, or a very big piece that I also took from this stage of our life was that we were very understanding of what our parents both went through in our families. And that made it so much more easier for us to say, this is the right choice because we went through that. We saw how it was, when our parents are struggling to pay the bills, when they lose their job. We don't want to go through that individually or together at all. So let's make the steps, to protect ourselves and to make sure that we're protecting our finances and our household from that mental stress that comes from, those emergencies and those situations.
Definitely. And I'm curious because this isn't specifically money related, but I think a lot of the practices and principles you guys had as it related to money, I'm curious if that was the same approach you took with like other goals that maybe you had for the marriage or relationship. So with like how you're going to raise your kids or like living a healthy lifestyle, did you take that same partnership approach where you had the conversation, you guys got on the same page, and then you both moved forward in the direction that y'all set out to? Is that how it worked for y'all?
Yes, we definitely have a lot. We talk a lot in this household. We're like little two walkie-talkies over here. So you come over here and we're both talking about a lot of different topics. So it really makes it easy for us, both of us, to open up about something that we're uncomfortable with, something that we're concerned with. And I think what really benefits us that we did unconsciously back in the day, but now we do it a lot more purposefully. We do something called a family all hand meetings that we do at the end of every single month. And we talk about everything, our budget, we talk about our meal plan, we talk about family activities, appointments. These kids is always after appointments or something. And we bring up everything, bring everything to the table because it's so important. You know, if I'm on one page and he's on another, that's not going to work. Or I'm stressed out about this and he's not even thinking about it, that's not going to work. So a
Right.
lot of times communication is the key to all this. And it's really hard because I know that, you know, we all have our different perspectives. I grew up in California with a Dominican household, very different, values and systems. And then my husband's from the South, a whole different, mindset. So when you bring those two mindsets together and those two family backgrounds together, there has to be a lot of conversations where you guys are talking through the different topics, how to raise your kids, what goals you want to set together, and doing it all as a team. Even when it comes to goals that only benefit me, for example. My husband's on my side. He's like, we're going to work on saving for that goal so you can reach that goal. And same thing for my husband and for my kids. I want my kids to see that as well.
Yeah.
If my daughter wants to do something, we're all going to support her and help her get to that goal, whatever it may be, because we're a team and we're not going to go far if we're all against each other in the household.
Right.
That's the reality.
I love that. I think that's so important. And, if I have kids one day, I definitely want to take a similar approach because I feel like that level of support from kids, like from a kid's perspective, when they actually become adults and move into like the real world, they just have this confidence and this like knowing that like I'm supported and like this unconditional feeling of love and support from parents who actually supported them all their lives. I think it makes a big difference in how people function as adults. So that's really great to hear.
Yes, and I think the important part too, especially like if you are a parent or you're thinking of having kids, is teaching them the art of decision making and problem solving. And that's what, when you're having a conversation about finances with your partner, when it comes to paying off debt, making more money, whatever it is, it's all problem solving. So you have to like teach them in real life, like little, examples. Okay, what are we going to eat this week as a family? What are you interested in eating? What are you interested in eating? And bring it together and problem solve as a team. Because in the reality of life, when you're working in corporate or you have a marriage or you're, working, whatever you're doing, you have to work together as a team a lot of times. And that communication can be very difficult at that point.
Definitely. And I think just, one more thought on that is if you are with someone and you do recognize that your communication styles are different or off, I think, don't be afraid to seek relationship counseling or therapy or work with, a communication specialist because it is a game changer for a successful relationship.
I love that.
So we talked a little bit about meal planning, and I know you create a lot of content around it. So I definitely want to talk about it here. I personally love seeing, the juices that you share in your Instagram stories and like some of your healthy meal prep choices. So what is your meal planning process like for your family? And do you have any tips for meal prep newbies? I would consider myself one of those. I can't stay consistent with it. So any tips you can share, I'm all ears.
I'm so happy you brought this up because I'm like super obsessed with I'm doing a mini series right now where I'm going over my 4 game changers. I did one full video on high thinking method, one on meal prepping, one on bulk buy, and one on the all hand meetings. And what I'm super excited about doing is helping people I even had my aunt reach out to me and said, Sahirenys, I'm sick and tired of coming home after work. I have to help my kids with their homework. I have to cook dinner. I got to take care of myself. I'm exhausted. What are you doing? Because your meals look good. Your kids are, they're getting their homework done. How are you doing it? And that is like one of my secret weapons. I'm meal prepping. I'm not trying to do it all at the same time. Because it is true. You come home after work, regardless if you're working from home or you're working in an office, and you have kids coming home, you're exhausted. Even when I was by myself after work or after school, I would be exhausted after all that. I didn't want to cook. Come on now.
No.
Order out, Uber Eats or something. Go out to happy hour, anything but stay in the kitchen for 30 to 60 minutes, and cooking and all that. So what I decided to do with my husband was eventually when we were planning for our wedding, we were trying to save money because we were going out to happy hour a lot. We were paying off our debt. We're like, no more happy hours. You got to eat at home and you got to eat healthy. And we are also trying to lose weight because my husband's from the South. So he was making a whole bunch of food and we were both, gaining weight. And I already ordered my wedding dress. I didn't want to get it refitted. So, and he didn't want to refit himself for his suit either. So we're like, okay, we got to stay healthy, stay committed. So we took a lot of the principles that from fitness gurus who meal prep for fitness. They eat a lot of, lean chicken, mashed potatoes, and broccoli every single day. And it was interesting, but I felt like that was like overwhelming. I was like, that sounds like it's just too much of the same
Yes.
every single day. So we pretty much remixed it in a way that every single week we will talk about what we wanted to eat for that upcoming week and we will create the foods together. So back in the day, my husband will cook all the meats and then I'll cook all the sides and we would come and do it together as a team. And it was great. But once we had kids and my husband's business started picking back up, I had to figure out how to do it myself because he didn't have a lot of time on his plate to do that. So I started making meal prep every single week, every single Sunday, and it has been a game changer. So I know for a lot of people who want more information about meal prepping, definitely recommend to check out my video on meal prepping, the whole mini guide. But I want to share some amazing tips that I have learned in my 10 years of meal prepping that
Yes.
I think would benefit every single person who's listening here. These are my golden rules, okay? The first one is you need to be more strategic with how you're cooking. I don't want you to cook for all 5 days of the week. No, you want to cook for just 3 days out of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Those are the most difficult days of the week. Right after Wednesday, it kind of gets a little easier. You're ready for the weekend, everything like that. So when it comes to my meal prep, I only meal prep for those 3 days. I do not go over that because I also don't feel comfortable, having leftovers for that long of a period either. It's really important to make sure you're doing everything kind of safe and healthy at the same time. The second rule is you need to designate your lazy days. So I have my lazy dinners on Thursdays. Those are the days I have my frozen meals from Trader Joe's. I'm ordering a pizza, maybe. We're having charcuterie board, nachos, something super easy that doesn't take a lot of time. Those are the days. And if you sit back, pull back, and think about it, I haven't really cooked anything from Monday to Thursday at that point. I
Right.
haven't touched my kitchen. My kitchen is clean. I'm not in the stove cooking it up. I now have time to help my kids with their homework, to go work out, or just relax because I love to just sit down on the couch and do nothing. Take the kids, put a movie on. I want to relax. Now, the third tip that I want to share with everyone is when you are new to meal prepping and you have no idea what you want to cook. Like you have no recipes in mind. You're like, I don't know what I want to eat. I have nothing, that I'm kind of savoring for at that point. I recommend the rule of three. That's where you create a meal with one protein, one starch, and one vegetable. It is the easiest way to come up with a very simple meal that everyone could potentially like at that point. It could be rice with chicken and, a little salad on the side or zucchinis. It's super easy. I think it's one of the best ways to kind of come up with a meal plan without stressing yourself out too much.
Yeah.
And the last tip that I wanted to share from that one was to designate Sunday as your meal prep day. I know that the weekend, everyone wants to relax and brunch and all these fun things, but you really want to have a certain specific time day, really focusing on getting everything done that you would potentially be trying to do throughout the week. So on Sunday, my husband, he's washing clothes and folding clothes, now meal prepping and cleaning the kitchen so that the rest of the week, we don't have to worry about laundry. We don't have to worry about cooking. We don't have to worry about cleaning. Everything's done so that we can put more time and energy on, taking care of ourselves, taking care of our kids, and doing things that we're actually interested in, regardless if, you have a hobby or not, or you want to work out. I think it's so important for us to kind of make our days a little bit easier on ourselves. And that's so overwhelming. So many to-do lists.
Yes, I think you make such a good point about, yeah, Sundays you want to do brunch, you want to relax, but it would be so much more effective to get your meal prepping done on Sunday so that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when you work and you have kids or, a partner or family, whatever, you don't have to worry about it. You made such a good point. Like, you're not in the kitchen Monday through Thursday. You're pulling the food you made from the fridge. Like that's mind blowing, right? So, get over Sundays being like your not do anything day and just at least meal prep for those first 3 days. I think that's impactful. Now, I'm curious and maybe you can just share like, one of your favorite recipes, but when you meal prep on Sunday for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're eating the same meal Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for dinner? Is that right? Or are you using Sundays to create maybe
No.
two meals or
No,
three?
so I want to clarify that for 100%. Yeah. So
Yeah.
on Sunday, I am creating three different meals. So every single day,
Oh,
we are having completely different meals. I am
okay.
not a fan of eating the same thing, like leftovers every single day. Like, no, I probably will eat, if we have a little bit of leftovers, I'll have that for lunch the next day with a little bit of a salad and call that a day. But every single day is a new meal. So my kids look forward to it as well. They're like, I can't wait for Taco Tuesday and stuff like that.
Oh,
So that's one of the main things that you want to make very clear, especially if you have a partner, because a lot of times, it's one of the questions I got recently on a Q&A for my meal prep. Their partners don't want to eat leftovers. And I'm like, I 100% agree with that. I don't want to eat leftovers every single day of the week. No, 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 no. Give me
yeah.
something new, something different, make it exciting. So every single day is a different meal. And then I had another question. You said, oh, what one of your favorite recipes, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to share with you guys another little tip that I use when it comes to meal prepping. It's amazing. So one thing that, since I'm Dominican, what we like to do in our culture is we make our sazon, which is our wet Dominican seasoning. Some people call it sofrito if you're from Puerto Rico or different Caribbean islands. This is very, very common. So what we'll do is once every quarter, me and my mom will come to my home. She'll buy a whole bunch of onions and bell peppers, and I'll buy a whole bunch of garlic and cilantro, and we'll make a big sazon together. And what we do with the sazon, because we're making it in bulk pretty much, she'll have like three mason jars and I'll have some three mason jars and I'll freeze it. And then I'll have one in my fridge, and that's what I'll use to season all of my meats, my stews and my rice and beans. And it makes cooking so much easier. I don't have to be there cooking, cutting onions every single, Sunday, cutting up all of those vegetables, because that's what brings the seasoning and the flavor to the foods.
Right.
So this cuts that time dramatically in the kitchen, and it's so beneficial because you can also pre-season all your meats and then put it in the freezer and make it even easier for yourself for meal prep. But I usually just leave that mason jar in the fridge and take it out and make my rice and beans and make my meats, and it's just such a great way to kind of maximize your time in the kitchen. And it's so great. I know a lot of people, want different seasonings and different styles of cooking, and that's a one way to make a Dominican recipe.
I love that. And I think that's so smart, right? Like have like some of the main ingredients already done. So when you are doing your meal prep day, it's not as taxing. Like it doesn't have to take the entire day to get everything done.
Exactly. It's such a time saver, I'm telling you. And
Bet.
then when you do it with your mom, or with a friend, I do it with my as well. You also learning about your culture, you're spending time together and you're cutting the cost of all of these expensive, vegetables, because but not right over here, bell peppers are super expensive. So you're like, okay, you buy five, I'll buy five, come together, and we both get that. And it makes it so much more enjoyable, kind of like bringing the community aspect to it.
I love that. I think that's a great piece of advice. And you bring me into kind of my next thing that I want to talk about, living in California. So you're in San Diego. California itself is a very expensive place to live. I'm not sure how San Diego compares to LA, but I'm sure it's expensive. So I'm curious, when obviously you're from California, but your husband's from Alabama, and he had mentioned like the cost of living is crazy. But do you have any tips for people who are looking to like relocate to a higher cost of living city? Or is there anything that you guys do to help keep your cost of living costs as minimal as possible?
I'm going to share two separate tips. The
Okay.
first one is becoming debt free. When I look at our debts, like our student loans and our car payments, that amount of money is a lot of money. It adds up very quickly. And one of the things that we realized during our debt-free journey and during our journey into starting our own businesses is that we wouldn't have been able to realistically afford becoming parents and starting our own businesses if we did not pay off that debt. That debt is a lot of money because each car is $500. That's $1,000 already. And
Yeah.
then when you add in your student loans and if you have any credit card debt, that really piles up quickly and it makes it difficult for you to be able to afford a more expensive housing or food costs or healthcare. That's something that we had to look into once we started our own business. We're like, oh wow, we have to pay for our own healthcare now. And that right there is like almost several car payments.
Right.
And for us and our two kids. So if we never became debt free, handling that cost would have been very astronomical and very difficult for us to do. And being able to maintain that debt off our books has also been beneficial. So it's not just becoming debt free, staying debt free as well afterwards is very, very important. Now, the second tip that I wanted to share that really allows us to kind of maintain our cost of living so that we can, still live in our hometown is our forces. Set high-fi banking method, managing our finances to the T, making sure we have our emergency fund and being aware of how much money we have that we need for our bills versus our lifestyle, controlling that. The second one is going to be meal prep, controlling our food. Food costs is a huge expense for families, especially. Food waste is another huge thing that people kind of don't think about. I believe family in America spends about $1,400 a year on waste. Waste is just that much money. So it's really important to maximize all the things that you're buying. You're buying at full price. You might as well, use it all. So really controlling our food costs. Our bulk buy is another really big one because I know a lot of people, oh, if you buy in bulk, you can save some money. Yes, but also it can help you avoid any overspending or spontaneous spending that happens when you go to Target or Costco. You go there, you're like, oh my God, cookies, a t-shirt. It starts happening. Oh my God, that outfit for the baby, that's going to be perfect. The list goes on and on. We have so much already in our head that we have to maintain and manage. The last thing you want to do is add another $200 to your run. So really being aware of your bulk buy. And then last, our family all hand meetings important for both of us to be on top of our finances and everything that's going on because it's always those little things that kind of catches up off guard, like a birthday. Oh, the kids want to have a book fair, and like, oh, all these things keep coming up. And if you don't plan for it, then it's going to be very difficult to budget for it and to not end up getting into credit card debt. So those have been very big game changers for my family and has allowed us to stay in California, afford our lifestyle, and make sure that we're not overly spending on things that aren't worth it for us. I don't want to spend more money on groceries if I don't need to. I don't want to spend, an extra $200 at Target if I don't need to. I could really utilize that money to make my life easier and save more money for my emergency fund or, whatever makes me feel more comfortable. Say, okay, I can stay here. I can live here as long as I have, a good emergency fund. I have good backup plans. I have my community. We can get through this.
I think that's incredibly helpful. And you raise a good point by kind of explaining that, hey, like doing the hard work of sacrificing to pay off your debt in the beginning is just going to make your living situation so much better later on. So I definitely want to talk about your debt-free journey, but really quick, I have a question. I want to make sure I don't forget it. When you have your family all hands meetings, are the kids involved or is that just you and your husband and you're discussing family things? Like, do you pull the kids into those meetings at all?
We bring them in for the kid friendly birthday options, kind of like when we're doing family activities. What family activities do we want to do this month? Do we want to go to the museum? Do we want to go to the beach? Do we want to go to the park? There's cost-effective things to do as a family that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. But if you don't bring them to the table, no one's going to say anything. So it's really important that, get the kids involved in those parts of the conversation. And also the meal prep. Sometimes my son will be like, oh, I want to eat, nachos. I want tacos. I want this. I'm like, okay, we can add that to the meal plan. We can do that. That's doable. My daughter, she'll be like, oh, dad. And my dad, I was like, okay, we can do that. That's reasonable. But you have to, listen to your kids, get them involved and have them involved in the puzzle pieces. Cause it's pretty much like a puzzle. You're like, okay, this month we're going to do this week we're going to do this. And it's like, as a team, we can do that a lot easier instead of just assuming everything that I want to do or everything that my husband wants to do. we have to kind of, work as a team and collaborate. And, it's a really good skills for our kids as well to have. They know how to collaborate, they have their own ideas, they don't feel like they're being shut down. Our parents, me and my husband's parents were like, okay, we're open to listening to what you want to bring to the table and having a table for them to, have a voice at. So it's really important. I love doing it with them.
Yeah, I love to hear that. I had a feeling that would be your answer, but I just wanted to know. But that I
Yeah,
think
we
that's
don't involve
awesome.
them in the budget or stuff like that.
Right. They don't need to worry about that just
No, no,
yet.
no. They're a little too young still. They're only, oh, my daughter's 8, just turned 8, and my son's 6. So they're still a little young to learn about all of the other stuff, but we're getting them into it very slowly with like their play money. It's like, okay, you have $50 this month. What do you want to do? I want to go buy a dress. Okay, that's what we're gonna do then. But that's an easy way to kind of like transition them into the conversation of budgeting, learning how to manage what they have and what they want to do, and set goals too. And my daughter's like, oh, I can't wait for my birthday. I'm gonna do this. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have a budget.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And it does transition them nicely as they get older. Like they're already familiar with having these conversations and thinking about money and how they want to spend things. So that's great. So let's transition to your debt-free journey. I know you kind of walked us through, you and your husband were on the same page and you guys kind of, went hard and got it all taken care of. But were there a few things, a few specific things that you guys learned along the way? And for someone who is just starting out on their debt-free journey, whether they're single or, in a household, do you have any guidance, tips, or advice for those people who are just starting out?
Yes, I have a lot of advice and a lot of tips. The first thing is stop trying to do everything at the exact same time. I know that there's a lot of people online saying, oh, we're paying off debt, we're saving, we're investing, we're traveling, we're making millions, we're having like the whole list of what they're doing. And I think that overwhelms a lot of people, and they end up doing very little in every single one of those categories. Instead, I would act that's exactly what I learned during my debt-free journey. I was trying to pay off our debt. I was trying to save for our wedding. I was trying to get fit. I was trying to pass my Series 7. I was doing so much. So, that can be very overwhelming and very stressful. And now that I look back at it, I don't recommend doing that. I probably would have given myself more grace, more time, and kind of separated everything out just so I could be very focused and really just knock everything out one thing at a time. And that's one thing that even when you're looking at your debt, if you look at multiple student loans, multiple credit cards, multiple cars, you have to really pinpoint. And I'm not someone who is very, open about, oh, use that avalanche, do the snowball, you have to do this one. I'm very open and I'm like, you know what? What is the debt that's really keeping you up at night? What's the debt that's stressing you out? Because for some people, it could be a credit card, it could be a loan from a family member that's keeping them up at night.
Mhm.
Put your head down, make the minimum payments on the rest, and really knock that goal out. And make sure that you are prioritizing. If you're doing like a side hustle or you're getting bonuses or pay raises, put that money to work specifically for the goal that you want to accomplish. And that's exactly what my husband and I did when we were paying off our debt. He had a side hustle. He put all that money towards paying off his student loans. I was doing my licensings. I was getting bonuses, putting all that money towards, our debt and our goals. And it really propelled us forward instead of, increasing our lifestyle because we're stressed out, we're tired. We're like, let's do the meal prepping, let's do the pool buy, let's reduce our stress in other areas so that we can prioritize most of our time on knocking out those goals. And again, I know that paying off debt takes time. My debt-free journey took 5 years. So another tip I really wanted to share was don't feel bad if you have to take a break from your debt-free journey.
Mm.
Something I don't share a lot about was in the middle of our debt-free journey, my son, he was born with a heart defect and he had to have open heart surgery. So we had to completely, postpone our paying our debt payoff. I then had to go aggressive on making money and saving money for, whatever that may come up during that time for our emergencies. And, we realized a lot more to life than just hitting our financial goals. Even as me, who's a finance person and, all we talk about is finance and financial goals, there's things that are important. And when you see family members and other people, struggling with, their emergencies and their situations, you kind of bring the human aspect and the human touch back into your life. And you say, you know what? I want to pay off my debt, but I need to make sure that I'm prioritizing what's most important. And once that is, all taken care of, we can go back to paying off debt or, whatever financial goal that you have that you really want to accomplish. And, the amazing part about my journey is once my son's situation got cleared up and he was healthy and back walking around like nothing happened, we actually, because we were working so hard and making so much, my husband was working overtime, we actually got first refund. Allowed us to completely a tax refund, and it allowed us to completely pay off the rest of my car, which was debt. And so sometimes, pulling back and really focusing on what's most important does pay off at the end of the day. So I always tell people, don't feel bad about postponing. You never know what might happen in the future. And that situation, really made me see, okay, I don't have to, guilt trip myself or put myself down thinking that, I'm not being successful because we're not paying off our debt or we're not hitting this goal, whatever. Everything's going to happen at its time, but we need to give ourselves grace and we need to understand that, life is going to life sometimes. And
Yes.
we need to make sure that we're prioritizing what's most important.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that and thank you for sharing that and I'm so glad everything is good with your son. I love that you said like, hey, I gotta give myself grace as I pause on something that meant so much to me and I was so focused on, but I have to shift gears because this is more important. I think that's such a big thing that people need to understand that it's okay to pause and shift your focus somewhere else and come back to your goal. It's absolutely okay. And I love how a tax refund kind of came into your life and got you on track, right? Like you were right back on
Mm-hmm.
track with your goals. And I think the universe does that or God or, whatever a person believes in. I think, if the end goal really is to be debt free, but you do have to sidestep to go somewhere else, you're still going to be debt free and things are going to happen that are completely out of your control that are going to help you be debt free. So, also just having a little bit of faith that things will work out can make a big difference.
So true. So true. I think it's so good. That's why I don't like sharing that story, but I share it because it is so important because people kind of, feel pretty down when and desperate when they're, going through their debt-free journey. They don't feel happy about it. That's why they're going so aggressive.
Yeah.
And, things things come up and it's important to, do the right thing. And doing the right thing does pay off.
It definitely does, and you're absolutely right. I think we can't be so hard on ourselves all the time because that's just life. And I know I am working on that. It's something I struggle with is not reaching goals when I want to reach them. And I actually lost my mom last year, and I had a
Oh
lot of
gosh.
goals that I had set at the beginning of the year, and it was gonna be like this big boom year, and I was gonna do so much and her health started to take a turn in April. And to your point, like I had to shift my focus and I have zero regrets about it. But it taught me that you really do have to give yourself grace because things that are more important than reaching your goal are going to come up, and it doesn't mean that I suck or I can't reach my goals in the future. It's just that my focus needed to be for me specifically on my mom. It needed to be somewhere else, and had I not done that or had I still tried to focus on my goals, I would have regretted it. And so it's just
Mm-hmm.
have to let life and kind of, flow with the river sometimes. And then, you get yourself back on track.
Yes, that's so true. I'm so sorry about your mom. I know that's so hard when your parents pass away and, family is really important. I think kind of puts the nail in the coffin. Like, okay, I need to change my perspective. It's not all about making money or, my business or anything like that. And that's really hard, for us as a country that's very consumerism and all that stuff
Yes.
to say, you
Yes.
know what, that stuff's nice, but it's not everything. Our family,
Absolutely.
our relationships are so much more important. And, you know, even when you're talking about big goals, like buying a house or retirement, all those things are important, but you really want to make sure that your life right now is okay.
Yeah.
So I always tell people it's really hard to focus on the future when your reality is a mess.
Oh,
So take
yes.
care of the future later when you have, you're in the right mindset, but take care of right now because you need it.
Absolutely. And like the future isn't guaranteed. I'm not saying, YOLO, right? Like don't act like you won't have a future, but I think to your point, like, focusing on the present and making sure that you are happy, healthy right here and now is just going to make sure that your future is that much better.
That's so true.
Ah, well, I absolutely love this conversation. I think, the people who are listening to this are going to take so much away. I know I did, when I have a family, if I have a family, all hands meetings for sure. I love your advice for meal prepping. I didn't even consider the fact that if I do it Sunday, I don't even have to worry about being in the kitchen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, have my lazy day. So I love that. But before we wrap, can you share what's next for you, your business, what you're working on, and then how and where listeners can connect with you?
Yes. So right now I'm finishing up my mini series that's on YouTube where I'm going over the high five banking method, meal prepping, bulk buying, and the family all hand meetings. A lot of details, so it's going to be great. You guys have any questions, definitely check. And we're also going to be launching Poise Kids. I have my children's book that I've been working on for years, and I'm super excited to
Oh,
be finally launching it this year, working with it on my kids. They have like a YouTube channel for their Poise Kids where my daughter's doing art. My kids are really into art. So it's really fun to get them involved and have them like, oh, my YouTube video, it's super exciting for them too. But that's pretty much what we're going to be working on and, continuing to, help the community with personal finances with my systems and doing blogs and videos, all that good stuff. And you can see most of my content on my blog, poiselifestyle.com, also on YouTube and social media like Instagram, TikTok, all those fun ones on Poise Finance Lifestyle. And I'm also on Lemonade. I really am liking Lemonade right now.
oh, I will make sure to link to all of those in the show notes. I congratulations on Poise Kids. That's amazing.
Thank
Way to
you.
go. Yes. Well,
Can't
thank you
wait to
so
share it. I'll definitely let you guys all know.
Yes, definitely. And like I said, I'll make sure to link to your Instagram too. So if people have questions, they can DM you directly and reach out. But Sirenese, thank you so much for being here today. Such a great conversation. And I will definitely be seeing you on Instagram.
Definitely. Thank you.